So, another year has gone by and it's left you wondering what exactly has been accomplished. It's definitely been an odd one. Technically, you've made less work than 2018, but at the same time, you kinda made more. You've learned a lot of things about yourself, the people around you, your work, and your limitations. As ScottFalco, you're 28 and filled with hate, according to your viewers. You produce less and are still a mess, and you're probably gonna retread on a few things you did last year, or just get lost in rants due to your inability to write a script that actually flows. 2019 was a year of change for not just yourself, but your channel. The whole year was spent trying new things, whether it was tweaks to the formula of your existing work, or just trying new series entirely. But unfortunately, 90% of the attempts didn't take. Anything that strayed too far from the norm or tried to come from a place of honesty struggled in comparison to your regular work. Even slight changes like Sight of Smash just failed to live up to its regular salty counterparts. You tried to speak your mind with your Hollow Knight video and reach out to similar artists struggling with anxiety as you have with your video on the subject. But ironically, both gave you a loss of subs. This started a bad trend for the year. You became obsessed with numbers, which was hypocritical since it was talked about in your anxiety video. If a video didn't match another video's success, it was a failure, and something needed to change. The lower amount of videos early on stemmed from this panic. Several scripts were written and discarded just because you were scared they wouldn't do well. Eventually, you got a wave of inspiration and began the Totally Legit speedrun series. Now, most think the video did well simply because of the content, but you know the dirty secret. It was luck. The first few days of the video was essentially a failure in your eyes. You had spent so long on that. It was 7 minutes of frame-by-frame animation, which you hadn't done in forever. It had actual lip-syncing, unique backgrounds, different voice actors. You put in the work. So when it underperformed initially, you were broken. You had hoped that this was going to lead you into making more animation, and it seemed like the door had closed before you even had a chance. However, luck happened. You had released this video prior to E3, and during the event, a sequel to Breath of the Wild was announced. This exploded a ton of Zelda content, and luckily, your cartoon got caught in that wave. You had never seen that level of success on your channel, and immediately started to think of more. Your channel had a big shift and went from a side assault every other week to one animation a month. Each video was performing splendidly, and so for a while, you were content. Things were going well from an analytical standpoint, and so you assumed you just weren't focused on it, but it was kind of making things worse. You were comparing your own videos to each other again. Each new Totally Legit got less and less views, and even now you panic that it'll fall into the same pattern of Side Assault. What was once big is now just adequate. Enough to keep your channel afloat, but not enough to make it soar. It wasn't until you wrote this script that it hit you how silly you've been all year. You haven't been creating for yourself anymore. Most was to appease numbers, to grow the channel, which leads into faulty and disingenuous work. A Totally Legit Wind Waker speedrun was a step towards animating full-time like you want, but you immediately set out to try and catch lightning in a bottle again. You created an Ocarina of Time parody afterwards because you thought the Ocarina of Time speedrun was a popular run, when in reality, you love Majora's Mask so much more, and honestly, you should have just done that next. You started to wise up a little bit that you were falling into the cycle again and attempted to branch out with something new. You wrote a song. You dumb fuck, you sang. Even so, a lot of people did seem to enjoy it, but unfortunately, it hurt your channel too. Kinda badly. Even now, you're worried it put some kind of shadow ban on your channel since a lot of things have been struggling since its upload. But maybe you're just making worse content. You were trying to make a joke, but as always, you never seem to grasp what's actually going on. You joked at a very sensitive subject thinking, oh, it's just a game. How bad can this be? Idiot. A lot of this year has been spent thinking about how other people view you as well. Part of your video changes were from the exhaustion of putting up a facade, but at the same time, you only put up another one by pretending you don't have strong opinions. Which you do. You let so many comments get to you, whether it's telling you that your opinion is wrong, claiming you're ripping off other creators, or insulting the quality of your work. Honestly, despite the less total videos, you've worked harder than you ever have this year. Who cares if some kid with a stolen art avatar thinks you're something you're not? They don't need to matter to you because you gain nothing from it. Whereas even if they watch your video and hate it and hate you and say rude things about you online, they still watched it and they're still bringing attention to you and that's support for you whether they like it or not. The majority of people love your work. Stop letting one bad comment out of hundreds of good ones ruin your day. But still, some of them do have points. A lot of you is fake, a lot of you tries too hard, a lot of you is hypocritical, and a lot of you is desperate to stay relevant. You made the mistake of having your name be your brand, and when people shit talk your channel, it's a little hard to separate it and not feel like it's a personal attack on you. If your channel was called Side of Salt or something, it'd be easier to brush off. They dislike Side of Salt, not ScottFalco. But instead it's they dislike ScottFalco, not Scott Space Falco, whose last name is actually Falco. None of this was ever expected. You've only known what it's like to joke with friends, people who know you, people who understand that you aren't the best at articulating thoughts and that not everything you say is exactly what you feel. You joke more than you should because when you don't joke, you often say the wrong thing, and at that point, you don't have an excuse. You were content to work on the sidelines, freelancing for higher-ups, or even working at a studio. You never expected to have the spotlight shown on you, to have people focus on you. You're unaware of how to act as a role model, and unaware of how to behave with people whose idea of you is formed as soon as they see a video of you bashing something they like. You're doing your best to learn, but learning takes time. And nobody nowadays likes to wait. People forget that there's someone behind the screen, and most people throwing out vicious things wouldn't be able to take the same things thrown back at them. Look at you, for example. All you've ever wanted to do is make people laugh, not hurt their feelings and make them doubt themselves. You of all people know how hurtful that is. But you grew up with a close group of friends who would rag on each other because that's how you showed how close you were. That despite any teasing or insults, you were still close, happy, and had each other's backs. Your friendships were strong. But you don't have friendships with everyone. You don't have that bond, and so it does just seem like an attack when you joke around. Even nowadays, you'll tell friends their taste in media is garbage. They'll tell you the same and you'll both laugh it off and then do something you enjoy together. You could try and stop entirely, but then you'd risk alienating the fans you have that followed you for your silly and rude humor. You can take some solace in Totally Legit, as that's just having fun, makes references, and doesn't tend to put anything down. But that leads into another harrowing reminder. You don't innovate, you just recreate. Side of Salt began as a copy of other similar videos you had seen online. Totally Legit was the same, just borrowing styles from animators you look up to. You always seem to be chasing trends, desperately grasping onto whatever you think will elevate you to the point where you can work on what you truly want to do. That's not to say that you don't enjoy the work you put out. It is fun to make Totally Legits, but no matter what you tell yourself, nothing has been as fun or as rewarding as when you had the ability to work on your OC. But you can't. If you spent the 4 or 5 months it'd take to make a 6-minute episode at the quality you want, you'd be paying out of your pockets those months, and possibly losing a following. Once again, numbers are controlling everything you do. You're starting to wise up. A Totally Legit Majora's Mask was slated to come out this year. This month, actually. It would have already been out. The thought process was, the holidays are the highest point of ad revenue. If I upload a popular tune, I make money and I make subs. But you didn't plan your time accordingly, and you were left with only 1 week to produce what you believe would be at least a 5-minute cartoon. If you had rushed that, not only would it have been awful for your health, but the cartoon would have suffered. You love Majora's Mask so much, and even though you missed out on a potentially huge viewership for it, you pushed it back. For your sake, for the video's sake, despite it possibly costing you a lot. You need to do this more. You need to stop thinking what will YouTube like, and start thinking, what will I like? Not only that, but clearly treating yourself so poorly for extra holiday work isn't worth it anymore. Even if your stuff isn't the most unique, it's letting you live comfortably. There is nothing wrong with what you're doing. You're doing what needs to be done in a broken system. A system that's actively unsubscribing your own fans from your channel, hiding your videos a day after upload, and having the gall to hide comments calling them out on how poorly their site works. You'll find something more unique for YouTube eventually. But until then, if something you like to do is working, don't overthink it. Everybody is always going to compare something to something more popular. It's hard to still feel like an animator though, in the sense that you've always had trouble fitting in with a set idea since you do so many different things. Yet you still compare yourself to other people just doing one thing. You're not as good as other speedrunners because you make videos. You're not as good as other video makers because you animate. You're not as good as other animators because you stream. It's a rude cycle, but all of those things together equals something great. You have multiple successful products, basically, and you fail to realize this because one of them isn't as good as a sole-focused product in the same field. Someone making just a cake can decorate the cake a lot more than someone making a cake, appetizers, entrees, and sides. You also still use food analogies too much. 2019 honestly did not start the greatest for you, but that was behind the screen. Anxiety and depression-wise, you were probably at your lowest point ever. You fell into an old habit of yours. You kept around people you shouldn't have. You were afraid to be alone. As the year began, you really attempted to find your stride not just in your work, but in yourself. There were parts of you that you were confused about, determined to figure out, and unfortunately, the wrong type of people sensed that. Unaware of your own status, constantly viewing yourself as a regular guy since you didn't match the numbers of those you admire, were blind to the fact that you do indeed have a following, and some people prey off that. They wormed their way into your life and put themselves in a position of dependency, which you were blind to. They would subtly feed you anxieties, get you to a point of feeling bad, and then be there to comfort you from the things that they made you feel bad about. Cutting one tie apparently left a hole in your heart and you filled it with more of the same. Other people took advantage of you. More people brought out bad parts of yourself. You weren't just some victim who was a perfect saint or anything. You lied. You did things you shouldn't have. All in the confusion of trying to figure out what you were. And that's not an excuse, it's a weakness. A weakness that you need to remedy. However, with the support of actual friends and even some fellow creators and mutuals online, you've gotten to a much more comfortable place. You've figured out the parts of yourself you wanted to, even if others still frown on it. You've stopped putting up so many facades. You let yourself feel emotions and have been a lot more understanding with those you interact with. You're still very weak, to be honest. This year showed you that it's very possible to regress. But one event did open your eyes. You were lucky enough to be a guest at a convention this year, and it really put things into perspective. Despite being an anxious mess before your panel, panicking non-stop assuming nobody would come, it was amazing, and you were proven wrong. People did show up. People came to see you. You met so many fans, you signed autographs, you don't even have an autograph. But you took selfies with them, talked to them, and saw the excitement they had just for meeting you, some dumb drunk potato who doodles cartoons. You did that. You fuck up a lot, but things you've made created such positive reactions and emotions in so many people. Meeting those fans, hosting that panel, it set you on a good path. You want more of that. You want more happiness. You want more inspiration. You want to be the person that they think you are. And the secret is you can be, and you will be. 2019 hurt like a bitch, but you came out on top. Your channel has grown substantially, and if you want to compare numbers, compare the growth as a whole because every single video makes that up, even the ones you think might be failures. You're stronger now, emotionally, analytically, not really physical. I mean, you've been working like 16 hours a day for a lot of these totally legits and eating garbage this whole month, but mentally, you're ready for the new year. And you know what else? It's gonna be great. With the help of your Patreons, you'll be able to hire editors and animators to help you out. And with that, you can try and work on bigger animated projects like longer Totally Legits or even an episode of Sigantessa. By the end of that year, with all these amazing videos you're gonna make, we're gonna hit 1 million subs. Here's looking forward to 2020.